feel like the areas in Monster Hunter are often taken for granted. While everyone is ranting and raving about how awful Kezu is, it's easy to forget about the environments that these monsters call their home. I enlisted some help for this video. I have my buddy Focie with me here. What's up, dude?
Hey, I'm doing alright. Just drumming along on an analysis on Breath of the Wild story structure. Other than that, not much, so I'm very glad to be here. So, top 5 areas, huh?
No, Focie, wait! I haven't introduced them to that yet.
Oh, damn, sorry, I'll zip my app then.
Hey, all good, all good. So, as I was saying, there are so many little cool details and features in the areas that sometimes you just have to stop and smell the golden fish. This is a list of my personal favorite areas in the mainline Monster Hunter games, so keep in mind that there may be a little bit of nostalgia factor thrown in here. Make sure you leave a comment with your favorite areas and stick around to the end where we go through some bonus rounds. These are the top 5 areas in Monster Hunter. Castle Schrade is one of the few areas in Monster Hunter where you could fight a Fatalis, one of my favorite monsters. But beyond that, I love the lore and the idea behind Castle Schrade. The story, as I understand it, goes that Fatalis kind of strolled through the gates of Castle Schrade one day and basically just leveled it. Then, Fatalis went on to destroy the rest of the Schrade kingdom. Fatalis is kind of OP. It's also interesting to look at how the level evolved throughout the series. In Monster Hunter 1, Castle Schrade was this huge open yard in the ruins of a castle. Depending on how much you paid for the quest, you would get access to different weapons. If you didn't pay the highest contract fee, you might not have access to the Dragonator or some of the other large weapons on the map. In 4 Ultimate though, Castle Schrade is a little bit more condensed. It's completely different looking, but I still love the atmosphere here. The ominous dark blues and purple clouds saturating the sky, the ruined castle walls and stairs, the Dragonator for good measure. As far as the smaller arena type areas go, Castle Schrade is my favorite. Speaking as someone who hasn't really played the first Monster Hunter a whole lot, Forest and Hills, later known as Verdant Hills and Generations, is a pretty awesome and memorable map for a game that required you to use the analog sticks to attack. This is like 2 different maps smashed into one. On one side there's this valley that slowly brings you to the peak of the hill, with of course a Wraithian nest at the top, and the other half is a winding forest with dense overgrowth. I like the hillside a little bit more because it's a bit brighter, and it's almost like there's this sense of dread that follows you up the map, slowly anticipating what lies at the top. I remember the first time I played on this map, I'm like, oh my god, what's going to be at the top of this hill? It's going to be a Wraithian, isn't it? I also like how the area is interconnected. There are multiple ways to get to the nest part of the map. You can go through the forest, you could go through the hills, or you can tough it up and just climb. As a rule for climbing, there are some spiderwebs and ores that you can collect on your way up, which were handy in the original Monster Hunter. On the foresty side of the map, it feels like you're strolling through the tropics. You take one wrong turn and you could get lost and end up on the wrong side of the cuckoo. To say I've spent a lot of time in Misty Peaks would be an understatement. There's so many fundamental introductions here. There is Nogres lurking in the more forested areas of the map. I remember the Plesioth hiding in the cattails up in Area 7, Purple Ludroths basking in the shallow waters, and Wraithians hiding in the cave by the waterfall.
And for me, I love that this area feels so perfect for Mizutsune as well. The whole area gives off a Japanese vibe, and I think having a bubble fox which gives kimono equipment feels very fitting.
I think what I like most about Misty Peaks is how serene it feels. Whenever I visit here, especially if I start at the base camp, there's like this air of tranquility that puts me at ease. I think the first area kind of cements this idea with cascading pools and silly birds walking around. But then as you get further and further from base camp, the stakes become greater and the area becomes a little more chilling. The cattails on the shoreline always creep me out. It makes me feel like I'm walking through murky, ankle-deep water.
Oh, you thought that was creepy? I do see what you mean, but what I find creepiest about the area is that if you start at the secret explorer spot, there are some hidden, shadowy figures with red glowing eyes staring at you. Ugh, gives me the heebie-jeebies. What could they be?
And then there's the cave where you find the flying wyverns. If I remember correctly, this is where I was first introduced to Pink Wraithian, my other arch enemy. Sorry, Diablos. There's just something about Pink Wraithian's backflip that I cannot figure out. It's like the monster equivalent to the Desire Sensor. I was stuck on Pink Wraithian for a while back in 3U, and I remember I used every last item in my inventory and I had 30 seconds left on the mission before it expired when she finally died. It was one of the most intense fights that I've ever had in Monster Hunter, and it happened in the Misty Peaks. When you compare the volcanic maps in Monster Hunter, there's really no comparison. The 3 Ultimate Volcano is hands down the best adventure into a volcano your hunter can possibly take. I'll let Focie explain this one.
One of my favorite areas in the Monster Hunter games has to be the volcanoes. Sure, bringing cool drinks can be a hassle, especially when you have a temporary lapse and bring hot drinks instead. But minor inconveniences aside, the volcanoes are usually the coolest places for me. They have a lot of hard-hitting monsters, and they just feel grandiose and epic in scale. When it comes to volcanoes, the one in Monster Hunter 3U is easily my favorite. It starts you off at the base camp. Well, at least unless you're high rank or up. And it's an encampment looking up on the volcano you're about to scale. It's in the distance, but it's there, erupting and intimidating. Making your way up the volcano is a journey. What makes this particular volcano so memorable to me is that you can pretty much always see where you're going to go. As you progress through the areas, the volcano gets closer and closer. And then, once you're in it, you just keep going up and keep going up. The amount of lava gets ridiculous in Area 7 and 8, and at the top, you're like, I'm at the top, but there's nowhere else to go. Might as well just jump right in. And that is actually something I find to be very fitting with Monster Hunter's otherwise silly characteristics. Feels like a journey, a ridiculous, ridiculous journey, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Deserted Island is my favorite area out of any Monster Hunter game because, well, it feels like a deserted island despite being right outside of Noga Village. You can see the ruins in the distance, and up on the ledges you can cross through watery valleys filled with cats, crawl through dark caves following your torch, climb up mountains to find nests and a hell of a vista. I could go on and on about Deserted Island. I think it's partially nostalgia because Tri was my first Monster Hunter game and it helped introduce me to the series and create so many memories. Who could forget that time where you were splashing around in the water only to have a Lugiacrus show up? Or the time you took an egg and a Raytheon and Rathalos attacked you at the same time, then you have to bring it all the way back to base camp. It feels like each zone was tailored to the monsters, and that's why it's my favorite area in any Monster Hunter game. Side note, a while back I played this area with the HTC Vive and a Wii emulator. That really opened my eyes as to just how massive this area is and just how much detail the developers put into things that you might not otherwise see. Now let me explain this one for a moment. Sanctuary is apparently the origin of the Frenzy virus from 4 Ultimate, at least according to a village elder. You end up fighting Shigaru Magala here in an epic battle to the death. It can be tough though, I know my first time dancing with Shigaru had me sweating. However, you have a secret weapon hidden in plain sight. The Safety Rock. The Safety Rock is the giant boulder in the center of the arena. I can't tell you how many times this rock has saved my life. Shigaru and other monsters can't destroy it, which is unfortunate, but the rock gives you the perfect opportunity to sharpen your weapons or avoid a deadly attack when you really need help. I mean, let's be real here. Deserted Island has some pretty great shortcuts. If you're playing in 3 Ultimate, you can go from the base camp almost right up to the beach, skipping several areas. You can jump down from the nest to get closer to the base camp if you need to turn in items, and your legs won't break in the process. When swimming was still a thing, you could even climb a cliff in one of the water areas to get to the nest. Deserted Island really has some of the most convenient shortcuts. Let's take a turn in the other direction. The least impressive area, in my opinion, is the swamp, otherwise known as marshlands in Generations. It's so dreary and glum, and I know that's by design, but to me that is so unappealing and honestly a little depressing. It feels like there's this fog over everything, and when you're running through the large, open, flat, empty areas just to fight something stupid like a Gypsaurus or a Sanitar or a Cuckoo or something, what's the point?
Even worse, the area is also incredibly cold, to the point where you need cold drinks. I mean hot drinks, why? I mean, from a gameplay perspective, this makes the area a bit more annoying, but even worse, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me, and it makes it my personal least favorite area in the series so far.
When I posted this question to the Monster Hunter Amino and Twitter, I was really surprised with just how many answers I got. A lot of people really seem to like Deserted Island as well, but there were so many great answers that just kind of came out of nowhere. A few that stuck out to me: the desert because of the night sky and the sand dunes, the third generation tundra because of the areas and the music, the Arctic Ridge from Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, and the nostalgia of hunting an actual dragon for the first time in Forest and Hills. All great answers, and I don't really know if I could pick a favorite based on the community's answers. I think Deserted Island got the most votes, but this is much more diverse compared to the worst monster list from the other week. So that about does it. What do you think? Do you agree? What are your favorite areas from Monster Hunter? I know this list was a little heavy on third generation maps, but personally I feel like I enjoyed them more than any of the other games in the series. Let us know what you thought in the comments. Before we sign off, a huge thanks to Focie for helping me out with this video. Check out his Thought Traversy and Retroversy series for some entertaining analytical videos about games and the gaming industry.
Thank you, Game Taco. That is really nice. So, if you want more videos of Game Taco, I've got a video where we collaborated on finding the top 10 most annoying mechanics in otherwise awesome games.
That is a good video. You can click on the end card right in front of you to go watch that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all later. Peace.